So when somebody gets a diagnosis of a probable type of dementia, I think everybody says, okay, go get your affairs in order. Go talk to your attorney and get your will and make sure everything's up there, that's up to par. And they talk about finances, advanced care directives, stuff like this. Make sure you get everything. But rarely do you hear a physician or a healthcare provider say, make sure you talk to your priest, or even just, even more general, your spiritual director or leader.
Right.
So what would you say to families as far as like when there's a diagnosis, not at the very end, but starting when you get a probable diagnosis? What's the benefit of seeking out your priest?
Right. Well, I mean, a priest is a father. I mean, we call priest father. St. Paul says you had 10,000 custodians in Christ. You only have one father. I'm your father. I begot you through my preaching of the gospel. And so a father is not just somebody that we contact when we're dying. Obviously, what we're trying to do is we need a father figure throughout our lives. And so the church is there as a mother and representing Christ, the priest as the father, to go to in times of difficulties, to go in times of joys and sorrows. And this is a common thing. People say, it's dementia, it's not a terminal illness. Well, it may not be. I mean, life is a terminal illness post-fall. We're going to die. We're all 24 hours closer to death. But as we have these transitions, particularly something that affects our mental status, or that will probably affect, and that's why we tell you to get the lawyer and doctors and attorneys, get your things in order, so that while you have your wits about you to try to make some clear paths for you down the stretch, and it makes it easier on family members as well. But all the more reason to get some spiritual help, because we're spiritual beings and we're going to live forever. And we want to know what God has to say about this, that he allowed to happen to us. And God orders all things mightily and lovingly. And so he's allowed me to get this diagnosis of dementia, or this diagnosis of Alzheimer's, or some particular illness, which may not be immediately terminal, but it's a crisis in my life. And I want to know, I need direction about how to respond appropriately to God, as God is drawing me closer to him, and this new situation, this crisis that I have, or this new diagnosis. So, and there's a lot of reasons for doing so. One is to get some spiritual help, prayers. I want prayers. I want my community, my priest and my parish, my community to be with me, walk with me through this. There's resources. A lot of times I find myself alone. I don't know, but priests have seen so much over their years, and so they're just a tremendous resource about groups to be involved in, or certain resources, whether it be material, financial, spiritual, even with regard to health and psychological, emotional, and familiar type resources. We certainly need sometimes ethical issues. We want to know, should I do this? Should I pursue that? Should I back off of this? Or should I go forward with this particular thing? And so it's a new situation, and I don't know what's right and wrong. And so sometimes I just want to bounce it off of my priest, and he'll say, well, no, that's either one's legitimate. Think seriously about either one. Maybe get your spouse involved, your family involved in that decision. It's like playing baseball. There's all kinds of things you can do at the plate or the batter's box, and but there are some foul balls and certain things we can't do that are immoral, and just because we can doesn't mean we should. So, but those kinds of discussions are very important, and we as priests find that it's rare that families address that. It's a fait accompli normally when we get involved, and some of that's our fault because we're not that close to the family. But sometimes, the burden of that could be on the family who maybe don't think to, or are afraid that you only call the priest at the end of life.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's very, very important in those regards. And I've seen, certainly I've appreciated it, and I encourage our seminarians that are getting ready to get ordained, is to get close to their people. And when you find somebody who's going through a diagnosis or a trial, some kind of crisis, to get close to them, and then you build a relationship. And then there's so much, you see, that can flow from that through the church, through the parish. And then when there's some more serious transition or or crisis, maybe that's been more serious, there's a relationship. And the person feels very, very kind of like on speed dial to go to their pastor. And that's a relationship that I think it has waned in the last few years of people with their priest. And some of that, I think, is the responsibility of the priest, who's not that missionary anymore, going out, especially to those who might be loosely connected. And some of that, I think, is kind of compartmentalizing, making the health and the medical and stuff something that is very, very distinct from spiritual. And it's not. They're very much interrelated.